Winter's icy grip had transformed our little town into a frostbitten tableau. Streets lined with snow-capped houses under a thick blanket of silence. It was within this cold serenity that Jeff discovered his latest obsession. Not through the whispers of the wind, nor the tales of the old, but through the flickering light of our television, broadcasting an old documentary on the thrill and spills of winter sports. "Arthur, observe," Jeff exclaimed, his voice a mixture of awe and excitement as he gestured towards the screen where skiers and snowboarders carved through powdery slopes with grace and agility. "These mortals glide upon the snow as if bewitched. We must partake in this skiing." I eyed him warily, remembering our last adventure that involved water and Jeff's unique approach to surfing. However, the gleam in his eye was unmistakable. A challenge had been set, and Jeff, in his infinite demonic curiosity, was already bewitched by the idea. The decision to hit the snowy slopes was made with the kind of reckless enthusiasm that could only come from a demon who had just discovered the concept of winter recreation. Jeff's preparations began immediately and, predictably, chaotically. In his zeal to acclimate to the cold, Jeff cast a spell that plunged our living room into a sub-zero climate. The TV became encased in a block of ice mid-broadcast, and the couch was frosted over like a cake, leaving icicles where cushions used to be. My protests were met with Jeff's assurance that it was all part of the necessary training for our skiing adventure. "Physical resilience, Arthur. We must be one with the ice," Jeff declared, attempting to sit on the now frozen couch, only to slip off and land with a thud on the icy floor. The debacle of thawing our living room, which involved a hairdryer, several blankets, and a minor fire demon, did little to dampen Jeff's spirits. If anything, it served as a bizarre form of encouragement. By the time our home was returned to its somewhat normal temperature, Jeff had already mapped out our journey to the nearest mountain resort, a place renowned for its slopes and, unbeknownst to us, its tolerance for supernatural tourists. Preparing for the trip was an exercise in patience and damage control. Jeff packed as if we were heading into battle, not a ski resort. Among the items I had to veto were a flaming sword, for ice monsters, Jeff insisted, a potion kit, in case of avalanches, and what looked suspiciously like a spellbook for weather control. Maybe just stick to the essentials, like warm clothes and... Actually, just start with warm clothes, I suggested, eyeing the pile of peculiar items Jeff considered essential. The journey to the ski resort was a comedy of errors. Jeff insisted on enchanting the car for efficiency, resulting in a vehicle that occasionally levitated, much to the alarm of our fellow highway travelers. After several hours and one very stern warning from a confused traffic officer, we arrived. The car dusted with frost and vibrating from residual magic. The resort was a bustling hub of activity, with families and groups of friends eagerly gearing up for a day on the slopes. We made our way to the rental shop to outfit Jeff, a process that proved more challenging than anticipated. Finding ski boots that could accommodate Jeff's unique foot structure required the patience and ingenuity of the store's most veteran employee. The fitting session, filled with muttered incantations and more than a few baffled stares from other customers, ended with Jeff triumphantly donning a pair of custom-modified boots. Next came the ski attire. Jeff emerged from the changing room looking like a neon sign had exploded. His outfit, a vibrant clash of colors and patterns, ensured he'd be visible from miles away. An unintentional but effective safety feature, I supposed. Jeff, his confidence as inflated as a holiday balloon, strutted into this winter wonderland with the swagger of a demon who believed he could conquer anything. Fire, water, and now, snow. "Arthur, lessons are for mortals with mortal limitations. My demonic agility will have me mastering these slopes in no time," Jeff boasted, eyeing the ski lifts with an eagerness that was both infectious and slightly alarming. Despite his assurances, I managed to convince him that even demons could benefit from a bit of human instruction, or, at the very least, it would spare us from becoming unwitting participants in a ski patrol rescue mission. Reluctantly, Jeff agreed to join me for beginner lessons, though not without muttering about the absurdity of a demon taking tips from a ski instructor. Our first challenge, however, wasn't the slopes. It was the snow itself. Jeff, for all his supernatural prowess, had never actually experienced snow beyond the confines of our magically frozen living room. The moment his hooves touched the powdery surface, He recoiled as if betrayed by the very ground beneath him. "It's cold and wet." "Why is it wet?" Jeff exclaimed, each word punctuated by an exaggerated shiver, his earlier bravado faltering in the face of nature's chilly embrace. I couldn't contain my laughter as Jeff, the mighty demon who'd faced down angels and monsters alike, found himself bamboozled by snow. His first few steps were hesitant, almost delicate, as if he expected the snow to bite back. But it wasn't long before his curiosity and inherent clumsiness on the unfamiliar terrain led to a spectacle. Jeff's attempt to walk in ski boots resembled a newborn deer's first steps, all wobbly legs and wide-eyed surprise. His first fall was graceful, almost cinematic, arms flailing as he landed with a soft puff in the snow. The children nearby, who'd been watching with wide-eyed wonder at the sight of a neon-clad demon approaching the bunny hill, burst into giggles. Undeterred, Jeff rose, dusted himself off, and challenged the children to a snowball fight, declaring it training for the slopes. What ensued was an epic battle, with Jeff at the center, hurling snowballs with the kind of enthusiasm usually reserved for ancient demonic conflicts. Each miss and hit was accompanied by peals of laughter, not just from the children, but from their parents and passers-by who couldn't help but be drawn into the joyous commotion. The snowball fight, however, was just a prelude to the main event. As our lesson time approached, Jeff, now somewhat accustomed to the snow and slightly damp from his earlier frolics, squared his shoulders and marched towards the instructor, determined to show that he could, indeed, master skiing. Little did we know, the real missteps were yet to come, as Jeff's confidence on the bunny hill would soon collide with the humbling reality of gravity and the peculiar physics of skiing. But for a moment, as we watched Jeff laugh and play, the resort transformed from a place of sport to a scene of pure, unadulterated joy. A reminder that sometimes the greatest adventures come from the simplest missteps. With our gear in tow, we headed for the beginner slopes. Our first attempt at the bunny hill was enlightening. Jeff approached skiing with the same gusto he did everything else, which meant disregarding the laws of physics and common sense in equal measure. Jeff, still dusting remnants of snowball fight victory off his jacket, eyed the slopes with a mix of excitement and impatience. Our first lesson, the instructor began. A seasoned skier whose calm demeanor suggested he'd seen it all, though, I wagered, not quite a demon on skis. "We'll start with the basics of balance, gravity, and friction." Jeff scoffed quietly. "Gravity? A mere suggestion to a being of my caliber," he whispered to me, a glint of mischief in his eyes. I could only hope his demonic pride wouldn't land us in the ski patrol's first aid tent. The instructor demonstrated the proper stance, skis parallel, knees slightly bent. The group mimicked his movements with varying degrees of success, but all eyes turned to Jeff as he prepared for his turn. With an overconfident flourish, he clicked into his skis, gave us a wink, and promptly toppled over. "Seems gravity isn't much of a suggestion after all," I muttered under my breath, helping him to his feet. Undeterred, Jeff tried again, this time managing to stay upright, though his stance was more reminiscent of a marionette in a windstorm than a skier. The instructor, ever patient, offered tips and adjustments, but Jeff, frustrated by the constraints of physics and friction, decided to employ a bit of demonic finesse to his technique. A subtle gesture with his hand, unnoticed by the rest, and his skis responded with a sudden, eager life of their own. Jeff grinned, ready to demonstrate his mastery. That is, until the skis, now enchanted beyond his control, shot forward like hounds released from their leashes, leaving a bewildered Jeff tumbling in their wake. The instructor, a mix of confusion and concern etched on his face, set off after the rogue skis, skiing with the skill and speed only years on the slopes could grant. The rest of us, caught between concern and burgeoning laughter, watched as the skis led a merry chase down the mountain, weaving between startled skiers and snowboarders, the instructor in hot pursuit. Jeff, back on his feet, could only watch in chagrin as his attempt at cheating turned into a spectacle. "Perhaps," he conceded, brushing snow from his hair, "there is merit to learning the mortal way." The chase culminated with the instructor executing a perfect intercept, capturing the runaway skis with the finesse of a cowboy roping a wild steer. The group erupted into applause, both for the instructor's skill and the unexpected entertainment. As we regrouped, Jeff offered an apologetic nod to the instructor, who returned it with a wry smile and a gentle admonition about the importance of mastering the basics, without demonic enhancements. For the remainder of the lesson, Jeff was the picture of a diligent student, albeit one with a bruised ego and a newfound respect for the laws of gravity and friction. As the day progressed, Jeff's skills improved at an alarming rate, thanks in no small part to his supernatural adaptability. By the afternoon, he was navigating the beginner slopes with a grace that belied his earlier struggles. Onlookers watched in awe as Jeff, the fluorescent demon on skis, carved his way through the snow, laughing all the while. The resort had never seen anything quite like Jeff, and as the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the glistening snow, I realized that this trip was shaping up to be one of our most memorable adventures yet. The blend of humor, chaos, and unexpected skill that Jeff brought to skiing encapsulated the very essence of our friendship. Unpredictable, a little dangerous, but above all, immensely fun. As we made our way back to the lodge, Jeff's laughter echoed around us, a warm sound in the cold air. "Tomorrow," he said, his eyes alight with excitement, "we tackle the mountain." And I, for one, couldn't wait. The sun was high, casting a brilliant sheen over the freshly groomed slopes when the rumor of a friendly ski competition fluttered through the resort like a wayward snowflake. The event, known for its spirited camaraderie more than fierce rivalry, was the perfect setting for Jeff's next grand demonstration of his mastery over winter sports. Despite my cautious reminders that we were, at best, enthusiastic novices, Jeff was undeterred, his eyes alight with competitive fire. "Arthur, imagine the glory. The two of us, champions of the slope," Jeff exclaimed, sweeping his arm across the vista of snowy trails as if they were already ours to claim. With a determination that only a demon could muster for such earthly pursuits, he signed us up before I could articulate a single word of protest. As we approached the ski lift, Jeff's enthusiasm was palpable. "This contraption will elevate us to the battleground?" he asked, eyeing the lift with suspicion. "It's just a ski slope, Jeff. Not a battleground," I corrected. But Jeff was already strategizing his descent, muttering about optimal attack angles and wind resistance. And as we ascended, the resort unfolding below us like a map of some snowy kingdom, I couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. Skiing with Jeff was bound to be an adventure, filled with laughter, the thrill of the slopes, and, if I was lucky, only a minimal amount of supernatural intervention. What could possibly go wrong? The competition was an eclectic mix of seasoned skiers, adventurous tourists, and locals looking for a good time. Jeff, however, stood out not just for his vibrant attire, but for the confident swagger with which he approached the starting line. Skis in hand, and a mischievous grin plastered across his face. As our turn came, the announcer's voice crackled over the speakers, introducing us with a hint of amusement. "Next up, we have Arthur and his very colorful partner, Jeff. Let's see what they've got." The race was a spectacle from the start. Jeff, true to form, decided that merely skiing was too mundane for a being of his talents. With a discreet flick of his wrist, he invoked a spell that allowed him to glide over the snow with supernatural grace, occasionally lifting off the ground to fly over trickier sections of the course. Spectators gaped in awe as Jeff soared through the air, his laughter echoing down the mountain. I, on the other hand, adopted a more traditional, and considerably less graceful, approach. Each turn was a battle, each jump a leap of faith, and my progress was punctuated by the colorful commentary from the announcers, who seemed to find endless amusement in my valiant efforts to not veer off course. And here comes Arthur, showing us all the true meaning of perseverance. "Who needs style when you have sheer determination?" one announcer joked, as I narrowly avoided a spectacular wipeout. Meanwhile, Jeff's antics continued to dazzle and perplex. At one point, he executed a loop in the air, eliciting gasps and cheers from the crowd. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Jeff, everyone. Skiing, flying, who can tell, but he's certainly putting on a show. As we crossed the finish line, Jeff landing smoothly on his feet and me tumbling into the snow in a less than dignified heap, the crowd erupted in applause and laughter. We might not have won in the traditional sense, but we'd certainly left our mark on the competition. Jeff helped me to my feet, both of us grinning like fools. The announcers summed up the event as we made our way off the course. Folks, that was something truly special. Arthur and Jeff, reminding us that the spirit of this competition is all about fun, friendship, and the occasional defiance of physics. The great ski-off was a testament to our adventurous spirit, and Jeff's refusal to adhere to the laws of nature. As we joined the other competitors for a celebratory hot chocolate, I realized that winning was never the goal. It was about making memories, sharing laughs, and, for Jeff, testing the limits of what a demon could do on skis. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, the slopes slowly emptied, leaving behind a serene quiet that belied the day's earlier excitement. But the adventure was far from over for Jeff and me. The end of our skiing escapades marked the beginning of another quintessential mountain experience, the Après-Ski. The lodge, with its roaring fireplace and rustic charm, beckoned us with promises of warmth and relaxation. Jeff, ever curious about human customs, was fascinated by the idea of warming up after a day in the cold. A ritual to summon the warmth of the sun indoors, you say? Leave it to me, Arthur. I shall ensure we experience the most effective warming up known to demonkind. Before I could caution him that human central heating systems were not designed for demonic enhancements, Jeff had already whispered an incantation under his breath. Within moments, the cozy lodge transformed into a tropical haven, the temperature rising with such swiftness that guests began shedding layers, fanning themselves with whatever was at hand. Jeff, I think you've turned the heat up a bit too high, I said, my voice tinged with amusement and a slight concern as I watched a group of skiers eyeing the windows as if considering them viable escape routes. Perhaps my calibration of human comfort is slightly off, Jeff admitted, though he seemed pleased with the sauna-like atmosphere he'd conjured. The lodge staff scrambled to adjust the thermostat, but not before our après-ski turned into an impromptu steam room session. Guests, now in good spirits and chuckling at the absurdity, gathered around the fireplace, no longer for the heat, but for the camaraderie that the unusual situation had fostered. Seizing the moment, Jeff decided to introduce his newly invented Snowy Nightcap drink, a concoction he assured would perfectly encapsulate the essence of winter. With a flourish, he mixed the ingredients, each step punctuated with a small, magical gesture, until the final product emerged. A beverage so cold it frosted the glass, a swirling icy mist cascading over the sides. "To new friends and unforgettable adventures," Jeff toasted, raising his glass high. The guests, intrigued and slightly wary, joined in, their laughter ringing through the lodge as they sipped the frosty beverages, which were, indeed, ice cold in the most literal sense. As the evening wore on, stories of our misadventures on the slopes became the heart of the gathering, tales of flying demons and tumbling humans weaving into the tapestry of shared laughter and warmth. Despite the overheated start, the night unfolded into a cozy, if slightly unconventional, celebration of winter joy. Looking around at the smiling faces, the glow of the fireplace reflecting in their eyes, I realized that our skiing trip had brought more than just comedic mishaps. It had created connections, memories that would endure long after the snow had melted. And as for Jeff, his delight in the evening's antics was a reminder that sometimes the magic of friendship and laughter was the best way to warm up after a cold day on the slopes.